Original oratory is a 7 to 10 minute speech which is formatted a lot similarly to an argumentative essay. So basically you get to choose any problem going on in society and you're going to write your speech on that. Typically performers like to draw personal experience and they like to use topics that pertain specifically to them. You could talk about anything from why we're so hard on ourselves, or why we judge each other so quickly, or why we're so afraid to say no. As long as you can elaborate on your topic and you could specifically say how it affects a wide range of people. It is a lot like informative speaking, as it is a 7 to 10 minute speech, and after 10 minutes, the 30-second grace period that you get to continue speaking for that you cannot go past. You have to have your speech memorized, as you can't bring a paper up with you, and it makes it easier to actually perform and use things like hand gestures, eye contact, and moving around the room. An oratory is formatted very similar to an argumentative essay. So you're going to start your speech with an introduction. And typically performers like to start their speech with a personal anecdote or story where they first saw this problem occur. You can do that. It's an easy way to flow into your topic. Next, after that, you're going to go into your thesis, and roughly this is what a speech is going to look like. You're going to preview your main points. You're going to talk about the problem, you're going to talk about the effects of the problem, and you're going to give solutions to the problem that you're talking about. Then you're going to preview what your speech is about. At this point in the speech, they usually use a roadmap, and a roadmap is basically a way to guide yourself through your points throughout your thesis. After the introduction, you go on to your first body paragraph, just like an argumentative essay again. So you talk about your idea, what you're going to try and tell your audience the reason for this problem is, and you're going to give support. You want to give evidence to establish credibility with your audience. You want to use things like ethos, pathos, and logos throughout your essay, which are emotionally appealing to your audience, using statistics to appeal to your audience, and credibility to appeal to your audience. All of these things are going to help you throughout the speech. So this is like an argumentative essay, so you're gonna, like I said before, provide the problem, the causes, the effects, and the solutions, and you want to organize that so your audience isn't lost, and you really want to clearly talk about your problem. You really want your audience not to be confused. Then after that, you want to go on to the conclusion. After you have talked about what you needed to talk about and you've clearly organized and put your point across, your conclusion is going to summarize basically what you said, and you're going to restate your thesis. You want to clearly show the audience what you're talking about and end them on a good note, and then final thoughts and something maybe to bring you back to your introduction so it goes back in a full circle. The roadmap is really good to keep your audience interested, so you can use the roadmap to bring up your main points once again. Ever since I was little, I've had some pretty high goals for myself. Running, soccer, cheerleading, or any school club, name it. I probably joined. I mean, I don't like to brag or anything, but you know, I got straight A's, top of my class, and honor roll. I thought I was pretty great. My parents used to tell everyone she's definitely going to be a lawyer, maybe a surgeon. I may have been 10 years old, but at my 5th grade graduation, I was ready to go on with my life and take on the world. I strutted onto the stage and grabbed my diploma confidently in front of everyone. My principal then shook my hand and asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I smiled, turned, and squealed, "I want to be Spider-Man." Not my best moment maybe, but to this day, it's one of the most embarrassing ones. Who doesn't want to be a superhero? Peter Parker by day, Spider-Man by night. I think we can all agree that he's extremely successful. And isn't that the common goal? Everyone here wants better for themselves. Whether you notice it or not, we all make attempts to strive for more. But what happens when you're attempting to save the day and you crash and fall? Or in my case, all your hopes and dreams are crushed by reality. Even an icon just as perfect as Spider-Man messes up sometimes. But that doesn't make him any less of a hero. Not because he can swing in the air or because he wears sexy tights, but because even when he fails, when his webs miss the target, he still goes on and he never forgets. Unfortunately, many of us don't have the same mindset. After one failure, we become too afraid to fire another web, too fearful to seek out another villain. And because of this, we miss our own chances to save the day. Superheroes such as Spider-Man give us these unrealistic ideas that we can easily go from being defeated to saving the day. So after falling in this hole full of disappointment that companies like Marvel have dug for us, how do we get out? No, we can't fly out with webs like Spider-Man. First, we must acknowledge the unfair images of perfection that society has perpetuated. Next, let's take off our superhero costumes to realize that we're all human, and that's not that bad. Finally, let's save the day and fly to our solutions. In 5th grade, even though I was proud to be the queen of double-digit multiplication, when I got to high school, I came to realize that life was just a little bit more complicated than planning on obtaining magical powers to solve all my problems. Like most high school students do, or really anyone does, I sometimes take on a lot, more than I can handle, because I just want to be great. But I continue to push myself, even when things get hard, because I believe that's what's going to allow me to succeed. I spend so much time attempting to juggle doing well at school, sports, relationships, and clubs. I never really have the chance to stop and breathe. Lately, the stress of going to an amazing college and getting the perfect grades has really put a lot of weight on my shoulders. This year, I took on the challenge of taking AP Chemistry. And let me tell you, there's a reason why people break up the word into chem is cry. All I have to say about that class is it's an experience. It is tough, and sometimes I get bad grades. But we need to understand that things in life are going to get hard. Like Superman, everyone has their kryptonite. And no matter how hard we try to push it, it only makes it worse. We are told that those who struggle to wield the hammer of Thor are not worthy. However, life isn't about easily getting the things that we want. If it were, it wouldn't be nearly as much of the adventure. I may not get an A in AP Chemistry. I may fail some tests. And my dream of becoming a superhero might have been crushed. But at the end of the day, it's going to be okay. By shutting out the images of what our lives are supposed to look like, we open up new doors. Embrace the embarrassing moments. We may not all be able to turn into superheroes, but at least we can look at Spider-Man's butt. And as said by Robert F. Kennedy, only those who dare to ever fail greatly will ever achieve greatly. Don'ts. So first, do's. Do memorize your speech. In order to be successful in this event, you need to have your speech memorized so you can actually perform. This goes along with the next do's. Do use hand gestures. If you have your piece memorized, that's when you could start blocking and putting on your piece and telling yourself where you're going to use a hand gesture and where you're going to look at a certain person in the audience. The next one is use your knowledge on the topic to get back on track if you forget. If you forget what you're speaking about, you wrote your speech. So the judges are never going to see your specific piece. So talk about what you know and try and bring yourself back to the place that you stopped at. Next one, be loud enough for your audience to hear. You want your audience to hear you speak. You want to project your voice so you can look confident. The next one is use voice inflection. You don't want your audience to get bored while you're talking, so this is very important as well. Also, think before you speak. You want your speech to be clear. You want your audience to understand what you're saying. Stay interested. If you're interested in your speech, so will your audience. If you're not interested in your speech, your audience will get bored as well. Move around the room while talking. This is another one. Typically, oratories like to use an oratory triangle, and this is used for informative and oratory. So the oratory triangle is when you start your speech in the middle of the room, and you make a triangle. Then you move to the right or left when you go to your next point. And then to your next point, you move to the other side of the room, and then you move back to the middle, and then in the middle, you go up for the conclusion. So you want to use the room so you can flow through your speech. The next one is be confident. If you're confident in what you're saying, other people will believe you as well. They will trust you. They will be inclined to listen to you if you know what you're saying. The next one is be respectful to competitors. This doesn't really have much to do with your performance, but judges like a good person, someone who's listening, not only to their speech. The next one is don't. Don't freak out if you forget something. It happens to everyone. The next one is don't bore your audience. If you're bored, so they will be bored too. Do not stay monotone. Don't use unclear transitions. Don't get distracted while talking because your audience will get distracted. And don't mumble while you're speaking or look unsure on what you're saying. You want your audience to be clear on your point and do all these things and don't do the don'ts if you would like to be successful.